Out of the box, your Apple Watch comes loaded with settings that drain its battery.
We'll tell you about the #1 Apple Watch battery drainer, as well as some bad advice other YouTubers are giving out.
But first, we're going to start with a tip that may seem counterintuitive. Just stick with us.
First, open the Settings app, press the digital crown, and look for the Settings gear icon. Tap on that, and then we're going to scroll down to Battery.
David's using the digital crown to scroll on the right. You can also just swipe up and down on the screen, right?
Yep. Tap Battery, scroll down, tap Battery Health, scroll down, tap the switch next to Optimize Charge Limit, turn that off, scroll down again, then tap Turn Off.
This is just like optimized battery charging on iPhone. Your Apple Watch learns from your daily habits to figure out when the best time is to charge it all the way up to 100%.
That sounds great, but we recommend turning this off because it requires 2 other settings to be turned on. We recommend turning those off, and we'll tell you about them later in this video.
First, let's talk about low power mode.
Let's tap back, upper left-hand corner of the screen, and look at the switch next to low power mode. Should we just turn this on all the time to save battery life? You could, but low power mode turns off a bunch of essential Apple Watch features, and that's how it saves battery life.
The point of this video is to optimize your Apple Watch settings so you don't have to rely on low power mode.
Let's talk about one of those settings that low power mode turns off entirely, background app refresh. Let's tap back, upper left-hand corner of the screen, scroll up using the display, scrolling up on that now, and tap General, scroll down, and tap background app refresh. Some YouTubers are telling you to turn this switch off entirely. That is bad advice.
It's bad advice because background app refresh is actually a good thing in certain circumstances. It allows certain apps to download new content in the background even when you're not using them.
Instead of turning off background app refresh entirely, scroll through your list of apps and ask yourself, do I want this app to be able to download new content in the background of my Apple Watch? Most of the time, the answer is going to be no, but for messaging apps in particular, it's a really good idea to leave on background app refresh. To turn off background app refresh for an app, just turn off that switch to its right.
We know we go through these settings pretty fast. If you join our channel by tapping the join button below, you can download a free PDF of everything we talk about today. What's next?
Notifications, and unfortunately you can't change these on your Apple Watch. We need to go into the Watch app on our iPhones. I'll tap on this folder, open the Watch app, and tap on Notifications.
One individual notification isn't going to drain your battery much. But if you're getting notifications all day long, it can be annoying and drain your battery.
In the Watch app on your iPhone, scroll through your list of apps and decide which apps you want to be able to send you notifications. Again, messaging apps, you want to get those messages right away. You want to know when you have a message right away. But for example, mindfulness. I hate those Apple Watch mindfulness reminders. I don't want to calm down and relax. Let's just tap notifications off. And now I'm not going to get those mindfulness notifications anymore.
Next, let's talk about display and brightness settings.
Let's head back to the Apple Watch, tap back, upper left-hand corner of the screen, back to the main page of settings, scroll down, tap display and brightness. First thing to look at is the appearance slider on your Apple Watch. Lowering the brightness of your Apple Watch can save some battery life. Imagine that.
Not quite as granular as the iPhone slider, is it?
Only 3 levels. You can tap that sun icon on the left to make it the lowest brightness level, but it's not as good as iPhone, unfortunately.
Next, the setting that I personally don't choose to turn off, but will save you battery life if you do, always on display. Every Apple Watch since the 5, minus the SE, has supported always on display.
Always on display gives you information at a glance and allows you to see the time. I think it looks great in an app like Settings, but when it's on the watch face, it's just way too bright for me. In our display and brightness settings, if we scroll down, we can tap on Always On. At the top of the screen, we have that Always On switch. If you want to turn Always On display off entirely, tap that switch to turn it off.
But if you like always on display like I do, you don't have to keep every switch turned on. You could just see what you want to.
If we scroll down, we have 3 settings. The most important one for me is Show Apps. We tap on that and turn off the switch at the top of the screen. This is how I like Always On display when I leave it on. It just gives you a nice plain Spartan view of the Always On display.
Next, let's talk about Wake Screen on Wrist Raise. It's a good feature. I leave it on, but if you want to maximize your battery life, you might want to turn it off.
Let's tap back, upper left-hand corner of the screen. Back to our display and brightness settings, scroll down and take a look at the switch next to Wake on Wrist Raise.
Like any other watch, you probably want to be able to see the time when you raise your wrist, but your Apple Watch can't tell if it's you checking the time or taking a sip of water.
You have a couple of options. You could turn off wake on wrist raise altogether. Might be a little bit of overkill, but it will save battery life. Or you could come down here, tap on wake duration and set it to wake for 15 seconds. This reduces the amount of time your Apple Watch's display is on when it wakes up.
On iPhone, there are a lot of cool features in the accessibility section of settings that maximize battery life. Unfortunately, on Apple Watch, there's only one.
And that setting is reduce motion. Let's tap back to the main page of settings on our Apple Watch, scroll down, and then tap accessibility, scroll down, and then tap reduce motion. Turn that switch on.
How noticeable is the difference here, David?
It is so not noticeable that I actually didn't realize I had reduce motion turned on for pretty much ever on my Apple Watch. You're not going to notice a difference. Reduce motion is a lot more jarring on iPhone than it is on your Apple Watch. This is a really easy way to save some battery life.
Next, we'll talk about some settings that even Apple admits drain battery life: sounds and haptics.
And we're going to focus more on the haptics piece of that.
I have a question. What the heck is a haptic?
Haptic, little vibrations you feel as you're doing things on your Apple Watch.
Okay.
So let's tap back, upper left-hand corner of the screen, scroll down to sounds and haptics, then scroll down to haptics. You can set it to prominent, where your haptics are more prominent, or choose default. That'll save you a little bit of battery life. Next, scroll down and take a look at the switches next to crown haptics and system haptics. So crown haptics, for example, when you're scrolling using the digital crown on your Apple Watch, you'll feel a nice little vibration. I like it. I like system haptics and crown haptics. I'm gonna leave these on, but to save battery life, you can turn both of these off.
I'm not a fan of the haptics, but I am a fan of the people who subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking that big subscribe button right below the video.
Let's head back to the settings app on our Apple Watch, tap back to the main page of settings, scroll down, and tap on App Store. Next, we need to talk about uninstalling apps you don't need on your Apple Watch. They're sending data back and forth with your iPhone, syncing up data and draining battery life.
They also take up unnecessary storage space. If you run completely out of storage space on your Apple Watch, that can be bad for the system and for your battery. But it will also prevent you from doing an important tip we'll talk about later in this video.
The easiest way to delete apps on your Apple Watch is to first put them into list view. Let's tap back upper left-hand corner of the screen, scroll up, and tap on app view, and then select list view.
This is one of my favorite Apple Watch tips overall. Even if this specific setting doesn't save you battery life, it just makes my life easier.
Next, press the digital crown on your Apple Watch. You may need to press it twice to get to the list view of your apps. Scroll through your list of apps and see which ones you can delete. So for example, I don't need the cycle tracking app on my Apple Watch. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna press and hold on that app, and then I'm gonna tap Edit Apps. Little X's will appear upper left-hand corner of those app icons. To delete an app, tap on it, then tap Delete App. It's gone.
You don't have to tap on the tiny little X.
Doesn't work. And to get out of this wiggly app mode, just press the digital crown one more time.
Next, we're going to make sure that new apps you download on your iPhone don't automatically get installed on your Apple Watch.
Let's go to settings. We're already in our list view of apps, and they're in alphabetical order, which makes things very easy.
It's way better than the honeycomb thing.
Scroll down. There is settings. Let's tap back upper left-hand corner of the screen to the main page of settings. Scroll down and tap on App Store and turn off this switch next to automatic downloads at the top of the screen.
This is one of my favorite tips on iPhone too. Just because I download an app on my iPad doesn't mean I also want it to download on my iPhone and my Apple Watch and everything else.
Yeah. Typically, I change the settings on my Apple Watch before we do these videos just so I can show you turning them on or off. I was too afraid to turn on automatic downloads before this video. Turn it off, leave it off, it's a bad setting.
Next up, mail settings. We talk a lot about how to optimize the mail section of the settings app on your iPhone, and we'll link to that video in the card above and in the description below. Fortunately, it's easier to optimize the mail settings on your Apple Watch.
This is a setting you can't change on your Apple Watch, so go into the Watch app on your iPhone, scroll down, and tap on Mail, and just make sure Mirror My iPhone is selected. If you haven't checked out that video, click the card up above, or become a channel member by clicking that big join button below this video. PDFs for some of our biggest settings videos show you exactly how to optimize your mail settings and a whole lot more on your iPhone.
Next, let's talk about music. and specifically how to add songs to your Apple Watch to maximize battery life.
Downloading songs onto your Apple Watch uses a lot less battery life than streaming the songs all the time.
For instance, if you listen to music every day on your Apple Watch and you're streaming it over the internet, it's going to use more battery because it's constantly maintaining that connection than if you were to download that music onto your iPhone and then transfer it to your Apple Watch and then play it from your Apple Watch.
And over time, that'll put your Apple Watch through more charge cycles, having a bigger impact on your Apple Watch's battery health. So all this is to say, download songs directly onto your Apple Watch. We do this in the Watch app on our iPhones. Tap back upper left-hand corner of the screen, tap on music. First thing to look at here is recent music.
As you can see, recent music is automatically downloaded to your Apple Watch. What we recommend doing is creating another playlist so that when you add songs or remove them from it, those are also being added or deleted from your Apple Watch.
Let's tap the Add Music button. I'm going to tap on Playlists, and I want to add my Groovy playlist to my Apple Watch. I'll tap on that, then tap the plus button at the top of the screen, and now as you can see, it appears under Playlists and Albums.
Next, some settings that are just generally a good idea.
And would you believe it, they live in the General section of Settings. Let's tap back upper left-hand corner of the screen to the main page of Settings. Scroll up until you see General, tap on General, then tap on Software Update.
It's always a good idea to keep your Apple Watch up to date to keep things running smoothly and protect against security vulnerabilities.
It's also a good idea to turn your Apple Watch off maybe once a week. Keep things running smoothly, maybe something just crashed in the background, just give it a nice fresh start. To turn off your Apple Watch, press and hold the side button until the sliders appear, then tap that little power icon upper right-hand corner of the screen and swipe the power off slider from left to right. Sometimes it takes 10 to 30 seconds for your Apple Watch to fully shut down. Once it has, press and hold the side button again to turn your Apple Watch back on.
Next, let's talk about some of the absolute biggest battery drainers, and they live in the privacy section of settings.
Let's tap back upper left-hand corner of the screen, back to the main page of Settings, scroll down, and tap on Privacy and Security, then tap on Location Services. So if we scroll down, tap on an app like App Store, we see that everything is grayed out. What's up with that?
Unfortunately, you have to change these settings on your iPhone, and then they get mirrored to your Apple Watch.
But fortunately for you, we've made an entire video about the iPhone settings you need to change. Watch that next to optimize your iPhone and your Apple Watch at the very same time.